All right.
But whereas it's funnier, or like say if it's a crack user on the side of the road, and or just like a very like a homeless person, and then in the show they have them be a very intelligent, well-spoken, very capable kind of guy. Like that time that homeless guy sat down at the piano and was playing "I'm Sailing Away" by Styx, and everyone was like blown away because oh, this homeless guy who's like super frail and falling apart and dirty and gross, he's playing this really beautiful piece on the piano. It was like it was a big deal. So when you go from one end of the spectrum to the other, that creates either beauty or comedy, depending on which way you go. Even comedy too, because it would be funny to see like a very well-spoken crack user lying homeless on the side of the road. Somebody comes up and they're walking by and they're like, "Man, I just can't figure out this formula in my physics exam." And he's like, "Here, hand it here," and then he solves it for him. That would be funny, right? So I think that's probably why they typically have homeless people play, or I'm sorry, not homeless people, doctors uh, do these idiot characters, and they become the butt of all the jokes. So, oh, but yeah, that's my rant on that subject. What are you talking about, V?
I don't know what were you talking about? I have no idea. I was like lost. I was completely lost at what you were saying.
That's because I'm
Was
an idiot, and when I
is
start
he still
speaking
talking about
intelligently,
the same thing I'm talking about? Like, are we talking about the same thing here? Yeah,
I was, but
I'm
it,
just lost. I think I like trailed out at one point. Like you started saying something, and then I just like my phone like flashed. Like I didn't even get a message or anything. It was just like a flash, and I looked, and then I was just gone. I was just completely gone from whatever you were talking about. And then when I came back, it was just too late because you had like
I'd lost you.
into something else. You were segueing into like so many things, and then at that point, I was just like, well, I'm never getting back to this conversation. And that's what happened in real time, in real fucking time.
Well, I'm
I
glad somebody heard
apologize.
me. So hopefully somebody heard me and appreciated my rant. Um, what did you do this week, V? Now that we're on the topic of duologue, now that we're like knee deep in the duologue already. What did you do this week? Anything?
We putting the rubber on, lubing up. Is that too much already? Already getting into
To the gay stuff?
the
No, not at all.
gay
It's
stuff.
never too
No,
early to get into the gay stuff.
I didn't. I got to tell you, man. I was thinking this week. I've been watching this show, True Detective, and I know you know because I'm texting you all day about it every day. Like, dude, this show is so fucking good. You gotta watch it, blah 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 blah, right? Every day, and it really is good. But it has this like conspiracy, and I don't want to give too much away, but there's this big conspiracy in the background of this show that's all connected, and it has me thinking about a lot of things. Like, I've been on this show for how long now? 3 years? How
Yeah,
many years have I been on this show? 3 years?
that sounds about right.
Yeah, 3 years. So for 3 years, I've been doing this with you, doing conspiracy, cryptid, paranormal research, and I guess discussion, right? At the least, right? So that would put me in the field of that, right?
Yeah,
Can we say that I'm in the field of that,
yeah.
right?
I would be
Yeah.
offended
Okay.
if you said that you weren't in the field.
Right. Okay. So then, assuming that it gives me all these thoughts, like I realized something the other day, and after watching this show, I like had this epiphany. I realized, holy crap, I'm a conspiracy nut. This like happened. This like happened from being like on this show and like looking into everything, right, and talking about all the politics going on and everything that's going on recently. Even has really made me kind of like, dude, like you can't close your eyes anymore, right? Like we've seen too much, right? And so there's this big conspiracy in the show about all these like pedophile rings, and like, dude, it made me so like disgusted by like these people. Like, dude, we live in a society, like, think about this. We live in a society where there are like these shadow governments and like people that like just kidnap children and then they turn them into sex slaves. And that happens in the US like regularly. Like kids just disappear and then they're like grown into sex slaves for like corporate fucking devil worshippers. And I know I'm putting on the fucking Alex Jones right now. I'm putting on the Alex Jones, but this is like what I like know based on the knowledge that like, I watch some TV and I read some things and I do a podcast with my buddy. Like
Yeah.
this is going on. This wouldn't. be a topic if it wasn't happening somewhere in the world, at least in the US, right?
Yeah,
So this is
because who
just things
cares about the rest of the world, right?
yeah, so this is just things that that I've been thinking about the past couple days. Like I'm a conspiracy nut. I guess regularly my tinfoil hat is on, and like when I talk to my dad, if he even mentions politics, I go off into conspiracy. I'm like, that's because we're in a communist dictatorship now, Dad. That's why. Like, you think this is gonna happen with communist dictatorship, right? Like all like with the Matthew McConaughey cigarette going,
Yeah.
like you know what I mean?
With like two of
Like,
them and the one in his nose and all that.
and I'm not ashamed to admit it. Like I'm still skeptical of a lot of things, but this is what it put in perspective for me is that if all these conspiracy things have the possibility of truth behind them, then everything like aliens, paranormal, Bigfoot even have the possibility of truth behind it. That's all there is to it. We can't disprove it. So the truth is out there, my friends. The truth. And that's what I got. I've been drinking a little bit today, so I might be a little chatty V.
The yeah, so like if kids are getting kidnapped and molested by Hillary Clinton, if we know that, and let's even distance ourselves a little bit from the conspiracy, because we know that kids are being kidnapped. We know that. We know human trafficking is happening. We know that these kids are being sold into sex slavery. We know that to be true. That's just common knowledge among the normal folk. If we just stop there, and that used to be a conspiracy. That used to be part of this whole satanic panic. This kids aren't getting kidnapped. That don't be ridiculous.
Right.
But now we know it to be an undeniable fact, an irrefutable truth, and so if that's true, and that was the conspiracy of the day, then and I agree with you. I agree with your logic. If that's true, then all this other stuff that people have said is a conspiracy is likely true as well, or is in fact irrefutably true.
Right.
I think that there is at least. I'll push back on you a little bit. Even as like the bigger conspiracy guy, I will say that there is at least some truth to all the things that we claim to be true, right? And some irrefutable truth to these things that we say are true. That people, and it's a fun thing to do when you start talking about Bigfoot with somebody or aliens. So we talk about aliens. And somebody says, no, I don't believe in aliens. Okay, well, that's fine. What about aliens don't you believe? Well, I just don't think there's anything else in the universe. And then you say, well, what you try to figure out how far you can get them to come to your side without them actually just outright saying, yeah, aliens exist. And then at a certain point, they realize, and it's one of those things like the Inception move where you get them to realize that they're just as crazy as you are because of how far they're willing to come to your side. And it's all stuff like for aliens, you would say, do you realize how big the universe is? Well, yeah, it's pretty big. Pretty big is like an understatement. So and then you start explaining all these numbers of like how big the galaxy is, for instance. You think Milky Way, you think it's, well, this is our galaxy. It's got to be pretty small, right? No, it's massive. And once you start throwing these numbers out there at them, they're like, well, okay, it's a little bigger than I thought, which is, it's an understatement. And you're like, well, of all these planets that exist in the known universe, X amount of them are inhabitable by man-like creatures. And if we expand beyond that and we start talking about animals or organisms that can survive in extreme cold and extreme heat, in lack of oxygen, with lack of water, like all these things, you start throwing them out there, like, you realize aliens don't necessarily have to look like us. They can look like any number of things. And so for you to deny that aliens exist or that some other form of life exists in the universe, that to me is crazier than somebody who says, well, surely aliens or some other life form exists in the universe. It's very closed-minded, and you can kind of put them into that corner where you're like, well, you're just being extremely closed-minded right now and you're ignoring science. And then they freak out because you've challenged them, and now they have to prove that no, I believe in science, and I believe chopping your genitals off is science and all that gross stuff. Speaking of science, I did want to talk. I had a funny joke lined up.
Okay.
Should I just read it like I typed it like I did last time?
Can't you just like try to do a joke good for
No,
once?
no, I can't. I think it's funnier to read it how I wrote it. All right, I will. I'll do my best to read it
All right. Yeah.
as a
Like
joke, as a real
hit the
joke.
words right, you know, and
If it's not funny, it's your fault. Uh, so yeah, I got to thinking because well, Elon Musk dumped like 1 point whatever billion dollars into Bitcoin, and then he said that he was going to start allowing people to pay with Bitcoin for car payments if they wanted to buy a
yeah,
Tesla model.
right.
And as much as somebody I was talking to, I can't say who it is because I don't know. I don't think they want to be associated with the show, but
No, no one does. No one ever does.
but they said that they were going to buy a Tesla model because of the whole Bitcoin thing. He stands to make a lot of money off of Bitcoin, and he said that he was going to buy a Tesla, and I said, well, I would. I said, but I didn't invest enough to where I can afford a Tesla. I said, I'll buy a Tesla shirt maybe with the profits that I made, because I'm actually up right now.
Some Tesla gear, like a Tesla hat,
Yeah, I'll buy some Tesla merch or whatever,
a
just
Tesla backpack or something. Yeah.
one of those drawstring backpacks or whatever. Not even the good ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, because I'm up 2,500 from my original investment. I've done nothing with it. Like I just left it and let it go. And so
I'm telling you, hang on to it, dude. That's how you're gonna pay for like your kids' college when they want to go to school on Mars and shit.
I told you they're not going to Mars. They're going to the Lunar Community College. Mars is a very liberal institution.
Yeah, it's community college for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, they're not going to. They can go if they want to continue to go on in their education, which I encourage. Then they'll have to pay for it on their own. I'll pay for their first 2 years, but it'll be at a community college, which makes more sense, really.
Yeah. No.
But I also I'm very much against the idea of electric cars for a number of reasons, and one of which is once the battery dies, you're basically buying a new car anyways, because the battery itself costs the same as what a car would. So you might think, well, I'm saving all sorts of money by buying an electric car, but the battery itself costs as much as a standard car. So I mean, the amount that you're actually saving is it's not worth it. And I'm just going to come right out and say that.
Like I've never owned an electric car, and so I don't know. Like I always have like my preference is fast cars with no top, right? And even now I have like a muscle car. So I don't know. I like never owned an electric car. I don't know the point of it. So is an electric car, would you call it comparable to like could I get a muscle car that's like an electric car? An electric muscle car? Could you get that?
I think they're trying to create muscle car designs with electric engines, but they don't have the same power that like have you ever used an electric weed whacker versus a gas powered one?
No, I've never done a day of work in my life. Dude.
Okay. Well,
you've known me for how many years? Have I ever
all right.
whacked? Come on.
When you were a wildland firefighter, did you use a electric powered chainsaw?
No, it was gas powered.
Right. Would you have used an electric powered chainsaw?
I don't know. I guess if they had it, I probably would have had to.
Do you think it would have lasted as long and had as much power as the gas power?
So
all right.
I think so at all.
There's your problem.
Everybody knows that ancient dragon tears or whatever is what makes cars go, right? Because not what it is. Ancient dragon tears.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Dinosaur bones.
This is what I know. This is what I can tell you about like electric cars based on my knowledge, and mind you, my knowledge is very limited. So based on the knowledge that I have between electric cars and like regular gas powered cars, it's just that like electric cars just seem gayer to me. So I'm gonna like avoid the gay thing. Yeah. And I know, like I was telling you earlier, I want to bring back like that's gay. Like gay, dude. Gay. Like gay, dude. Like you got an electric car, dude. Gay.
That is pretty dang gay.
Yeah, it's pretty dang gay. I don't know anybody. Do you own an electric car?
I don't. I don't. I have a gas power. I wouldn't have been able to tow the trailer with a battery powered car. And you have to stop every however many miles to charge it up. And it's not like filling your gas tank where it takes maybe 5-10 minutes total. It's like you have to sit there and charge it like it's an e-reader or something where you have to or a phone where you got to wait hours.
Yeah, gay as hell. That's like some hipster shit. That's what that seems like to me, right?
That's exactly what it is. That's the point. It's
That
designed
is some
to,
big ass Buster.
yeah, poo butt ass, rookie ass shit. So that's what they're doing is they did this whole, now if you recall when Biden went through and he signed all his executive orders, one of them was
Yeah,
that they were going to transfer entirely to electric cars by whatever year it was.
yeah,
And
right.
the day before that, after Pelosi and Congress and them had been briefed on the executive orders, Pelosi invested like millions of dollars in Tesla, of course.
That reptilian ass fucking bitch, dude.
Yeah, and then the next day he signs a thing saying that we're going to transfer over to all gas or all electric powered cars, which everybody forgets that. How do you get electricity to charge these vehicles from fossil fuels? They use fossil fuels, natural gases, coal. They use all these things, oil,
Right.
crude oil. They
Yeah.
use all this stuff.
Redundant.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
like I told you yesterday, or whatever day
That
it
makes
was.
okay.
Yeah. It's just you're basically. It sounds like on Rick and Morty when he goes, "Well, that just sounds like slavery with extra steps." That just sounds like fossil fuel use with extra steps.
Yeah, right.
Because even the solar panels, they use a lot of coal and quartz and to make the panels, and then in order to keep the solar panels running, because there's downtime in which the sun isn't hitting these panels, and they have to have the power plants that are powered by fossil fuels running at all times, and they don't dial it up or down. They would just leave it at an average rate, because if you dial it up or dial it down, that actually takes more fossil fuel. It's kind of like revving the engine.
I think dialing it up is like the way to go. Like dialing it up, dude.
And just everybody has like superpowers, like super powered houses. Everything's
Yeah,
your phone charges in 20 minutes.
just dial it up. Dial it all up. Let's use all of the energy that we can as fast as we can and see what happens.
Just burn it out. Yeah, I mean I think doing that would cause them to find a renewable source, a better renewable source.
We could start using people for electric, like like on the Matrix. Remember when Keanu he uses those glasses to talk to computers?
What?
Remember in their batteries?
Yeah, like, I remember him being a battery briefly, and then he woke up and then went on about.
Did you see my shirt? You want to see my shirt?
Yeah,
what I'm wearing?
About the shirt.
Okay, can I see? It
I'm just fat. Jake.
I got my Jake Coob shirt today, like perfect timing for the show. Like it just came in.
Everybody's actually been talking about the shower curtain.
Oh, were they?
Yeah, they were.
Why don't you do your spiel and
Because I was in the middle of a joke.
We shot together. Oh,
I didn't even finish the joke. Yeah, my question, and this was the joke. All right. How do you know? Like, what happens if your battery dies on an electric car? Like if your battery dies in a regular car, you have somebody jumpstart your car, right? And all you need to do is get you get it to ignite, and then the gas continues it, and the alternator is what charges your battery. But an electric car, so I mean, you really only have to be jump started. You can have the jumper cables on the battery. You turn the car, and then it'll start up. You can remove them right then and there and be done with it. But with an electric car, how do you jump start an electric car? Like, how do you know when to take the cables off? Because you're going to have to wait for your battery to charge up. It's not like the fossil fuel, the gasoline, is going to help charge your battery using the alternator. You're using the energy in order to propel your car. So how do you know when to take it off? Do you if you take it off, all of a sudden your car turns off again? You're like, oh, hey, can I borrow your jumper cables again? Like in a series of continuously going back and forth to the dude's trunk to get the jumper cables. And how long would this go on before somebody said, that's it, I'm done? Like, how many times is too many where you're like, I'm not going to help you anymore. I'm not going to help anyone ever again because, frankly, I've been here for 20 minutes trying to help you charge or start your car, and every time I do, it turns off again. And then they suddenly realize it's a Chevy Volt. Or a Tesla model cybernetic truck, 2077 cyberpunk truck, like the ones that they're trying to push right now. Which I think are hideous personally, but I get some people like the style of the that pickup truck, and you know, I can't stop them. I can't stop people from getting whatever they want. That's not what America stands for. That's in fact what the founding fathers fought for, was your ability to buy a Tesla model Cyberpunk 2077 truck.
I remember that in the Declaration.
Yeah. We the people of the United States hereby declare that you should be able to buy a gray cybernetic truck from the future, electric powered. But yeah, that's that was my opinion on that. Did you want to talk about what month it is? Because it's a very special month right now. And let me see here. We can talk a little bit about Black History Month.
More like Whack History Month. Was that good? Was that good?
Well, I would have gone with something about, it might have been a stretch because you would have had to say Crack History Month, and then people would have had to know that crack was actually introduced to the black community by the CIA in order to, you know, punish them and obviously kill off several of them, and you know, keep them in you know, socioeconomic handcuffs, so to speak. But as you can see here, Sean King, notable black man who his brother, I don't know how this works, but he is a very black man, stands up for the black community, leader of the Black Lives Matter movement, but his brother is actually white, which is weird, probably adopted. Another weird thing, his parents are both white. Odd. The one thing that I can't, you know, and I can get past that actually, but the one thing that I still struggle with is his birth certificate says white on it. So maybe it was a typo. I can only assume.
Yeah. And the guy's obviously a ginger, but we live in an age where you can identify as whatever you want, dude. That's what's so great about like the incompetence of man, dude, is that you can just say that you are the thing that you can offend, and then you can't offend anybody. Like I could just start dropping N-bombs all over the place if I wanted to, and then tell people why I identify as a black man. How are they going to refute that? That's their fucking words, right? That's their vocabulary, or what do you call it? Their
vernacular, jargon.
Yeah, vernacular. That's their stuff. You know, I didn't choose to use their words, but that's how it is. And if you want to do it that way, then there's always a loophole in offending people, man. Always. We can offend people forever, and if you stand with me, we can continue to offend people. You know, until the rest of our lives, dude. Until we grow old, and just like
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
I made that your campaign. I thought you were doing a campaign thing. So, well, if you're willing to say the N-word, I've got a pretty good one here for you.
All right.
I'll set you up. So I don't know if you guys saw this, but this is we didn't record last week, unfortunately. I was still recovering from my spell. when I passed out from laughing too hard.
Oh yeah, that's right, you did.
But up until that point, right? This is a quote, or this is a tweet from LeBron James, who notably like the biggest douchebag in the NBA, which is like in itself an organization of douchebags. And he's king douchebag. He some chick on the sideline or on the court or the sidelines. Yeah, I guess is what it's called. I don't know. I don't watch sports ball. But she was yelling at him and flipped him off and called him all sorts of names. And this was his response after the game. He said, "Courtside Karen was mad," and then the laughing emoji. And I got to thinking, right? Actually, I have a picture of her. She's not a bad looker either, is the thing. Like here, this is LeBron James, known douchebag, and then this chick, this is Courtside Karen. Kind of looks like, I mean, she's obviously fake from head to toe, and I'm sure underneath all that makeup and, you know, waking up in the morning with bedhead, she'd be a hideous wreck. But, you know, you can see her there in all her, whatever, her fake glory. But this got me to thinking, right? The whole Karen thing. Frankly, I don't care about white women being offended or whatever, feeling oppressed because somebody called them a Karen. I think it's silly, but I also think that black people being offended by the N-word is silly. I think anyone being offended by any kind of word, I think that's silly.
I'm with you 100%.
I think being insulted is like, I don't know. I think that's something that was maybe important some time ago when your name meant something. It carried some kind of weight, and somebody saying something mean about you, you dueled about that. That was a thing. But now we live in a world where, like, you know, people call you. I get called names for breakfast.
You say dueling?
Yeah,
Could
you would
imagine
duel. You would duel
dueling
somebody.
now? I would, dude. I would duel. I would duel people if it came down to it. Like it was an honor thing. I probably would have died a long time ago if dueling was a thing. But I'll tell you what, dude. I would duel if people like called me out. They were like, "I choose you, dude," and then I'd duel. I'd do it. I would hope that it would evolve by our day and age. You know, like it's not just pistols to the back sort of a thing anymore. Like it's something cooler. You know, something more competitive.
Well,
But
it was
still,
supposed to be.
you
It was
know?
not supposed to be to the back. You were never supposed to shoot them in the back. You were supposed to both turn around, and then you would both fire one round. And that's how actually Andrew Jackson, he survived a duel against the best dueler at the time. He was like this crack shot, marksman, best shooter around. And he challenged him to a duel. And when they turned around, he let the other guy shoot, just take his best shot. He didn't even try to fire the first time in the first immediate turnaround and shoot. He let him shoot because the rules of dueling were both shooters get to shoot once, right? And so he figured if that guy shot, he would be able to take his time and shoot the other guy rather than having to turn and draw and shoot real quick. He was going to take his time, but he knew he was going to take a shot. And he did. He took a shot to the chest, and he survived, and he lived the rest of his life with a bullet in his chest. But it worked. But yeah, you were never supposed to shoot somebody in the back. That was.
Well, I mean, I would have done that. That's what I would.
No, I believe that because sometimes you got to win. You know, sometimes winning is more important than honor. Stand on the ashes of all the dead and ask them if honor really matters, right?
Yeah.
But
yeah, absolutely.
So
Indubitably.
my thing about this whole Karen situation is and black people, right, are the first to make fun of white women for being offended by being called Karen, right? They say, you know, there are all these middle-aged white women who are like, oh, well, that's just like saying the N-word. And then black people are like, no, it's not. It absolutely is not. When to me, and I'm here to make this case, it's exactly the same. It's meaningless, but also if it offends them, then it is no different than the N-word, which offends black people, right?
Right.
For no real reason. Because these people were never called that by slave owners. They were never called this. Like, they probably never even met any of their family members who were called that by slave owners. This is just a word that they use amongst each other and have taken it back for themselves, and then they're upset that people are using it or using the hard R, right? And it's just a word. It's meaningless.
Right.
It only has meaning if you allow it to have meaning. And so the Karens are no better than the black people who are offended by the N-word. But how dare they say that Karens aren't allowed to be upset about that, about being called Karen, because they're upset about something equally as stupid. And that's designed to have the same effect.
So you're telling you're siding with the Karens in this argument?
I'm not siding with either one of them, but I suppose if I had to, if for the sake of this discussion I had to, I would say I'm siding with the Karens who say that Karen is just as bad as, that it is equally as offensive as the N-word, right?
Well, you might as well get a bob cut. Get yourself a bob cut, dude, and start carrying a chihuahua in your purse, you know?
First of all, I'm going to ask to speak to your manager for talking to me like that.
Yeah.
Because, but that's my argument. And here, I'm going to tell you why. Because if I can't, so you can't go out and you can't say the N-word without somebody getting upset, right?
Uh-huh.
But this dude can go out and he can freely say Karen, the K word, right? Which I'll refer to it from now on just as that.
Yeah,
just to,
K word.
Yeah. He can freely say the K word without any kind of punishment or repercussions. So I feel that the playing field should be leveled. All right. I think that any white woman, any middle-aged white woman who is offended by being called Karen should be able to say the N-word. And if you think that's ridiculous, I want you to say, imagine LeBron James, a black man, tweeting, let me pull that picture back up, tweeting this comment right here. Imagine a black man, LeBron James, saying courtside Karen was mad, designed to offend a middle-aged white woman who was angry. And then I want you to imagine Donald Trump instead saying this, and how upset people would be by this, referring to LeBron James.
They would lose their minds. Now, just to be clear, that LeBron James tweet, was that real?
That is real.
That's a real tweet?
Yeah. This Donald Trump one is not real, obviously. Do you want to read it, no, V, for the podcaster?
I better not. I better not.
It says, so essentially, for anybody who's watching or listening to the podcast, it says basketball N-word was mad, and then a bunch of laughing emojis. It's the same thing that LeBron James said, but instead of courtside Karen, it says basketball N, right? And now, let me take it back to my face, so hopefully the algorithm doesn't pick up on the N-word being on the screen. Now, the N-word is just designed to offend black people. The K-word is designed exclusively to offend middle-aged white women who are upset about one thing or another. So I think the playing field should be leveled. I'm not a Karen, so unfortunately I can't do it for you.
It sounds like you kind of are, though.
Well, maybe I should identify as one.
It sounds like you kind of are. I think deep down we're all Karens, to be honest.
Everybody has a little bit of Karen in them.
I'll tell you this: if this is what a Karen is, if the definition of a Karen is somebody who speaks to the manager on a regular basis, like that's the base definition, then I'm definitely a Karen, because I do that regularly. I'm constantly going, hey, motherfucker, this isn't what I paid for. You better give me the shit that I paid for. And I'm always chewing everybody out. Every time I get a chance to chew someone out that I'm paying to do like a job, I chew them out. I go, you're not doing it right. You're not doing it right. You know, so if that's what a Karen is, then I'm a Karen. I don't know if I can say Karen anymore, the K word.
Yeah, but, you have to say K word because you're not black.
I should be able to say whatever I want, to be honest with you. I should be able to say any word, you know?
Well, you can, and that's the thing. But the problem is, like Voltaire said, in order to know who really rules over you, find out who you can't insult. And that's who's in charge. So what does that tell you about our inability to say the N-word? That probably there's some, like, strings being pulled, or some people who are sympathetic to the plight of black people who say, hey, you can't say that. And a lot of people will tell you it's the Jews, which is why anti-Semitism is its own separate xenophobic activity.
Who is
right?
it? Who is it again?
Taboo?
No, who is it that's...
Oh, the Jews. The Jews.
The Jews?
Yeah.
Those Jews.
Hold on.
Those Jews, man. It's so funny to me. It's always going to be funny to me that the word Jew is also the racial epithet for Jew. So it's all about how you say it, right? Like those Jews or the Jews. In fact, it seems like no matter how you say Jews, it's going to come out as like sounding anti-Semitic, I guess.
You know what you have to do? This is what you have to do. Whenever you're talking, you can say, well, you know, historically, the Jews have always been, and that's what you have to do.
The mannerism and gesture, is that what you're saying?
Right. You have to, and then put on like cat ears or something. I don't know, something to like lighten the room so that people are like, well, clearly he's not angry because he's wearing cat ears and he's got his hands under his chin and he's twirling his phone cord with his pinky.
That's a cool move.
His little feet are kicking behind him on the bed. So that's how you have to do it, I think, is you have to say, or sing it. Like you could say, well, historically, the Jews have always had a, you know.
I'm okay with that. I could do that. I'm okay with that. I like to sing things every now and then. I find myself singing random things in the house all the time. So if we're going, oh, I'd like to talk about the Jews, then I can do that. Like regularly. In fact, I think we should instate that. That way it never seems offensive.
Well, that's our thing now.
About the Jews.
That'll be our thing from now on.
It'll never seem offensive if you sing it. That's a genius. I think we just... we pwned racism right there.
Yeah, we just ended anti-Semitism. Just with that. That was it. So, all right. Who do we have in the chat? Welcome, VS, Justin Welker, JC Braun, Jurassic Weeb, James Pregler, I Love God, Mike, Jacob, and Megabit was the last one. Oh, and Buzz Busby. Let me make sure I get everybody. I don't want to leave anybody out. Heaven forbid. If I forgot you, I apologize. I wrote it down before I did my whole N-word rant. But yeah, what are we talking about tonight, V? Are we doing something? Are we talking about something tonight, or are we just kind of talking about Black History Month?
No, don't you have to do like a shot first? I actually been drinking. Yeah. I've been drinking today, so I can drink with you when you actually take your shot, dude. I've been for those of you who are wondering what I'm drinking, I've been having the Caucasian, the famous dude drink. I've been drinking White Russians all day, so you know.
So let's.
I wear a bathrobe all day. It seems appropriate.
It's going to be hard to get us both. We're going to have to do it like one after the other, and I'll have to switch the screen.
Yeah, you do yours, and then I'll follow suit.
Oh, okay. So what are we toasting to?
I don't know.
The Jews.
Fuck, man. Yeah, to the Jews. Yeah, there you go.
Finish it off, V.
Salud. Gambai, right?
Now that we've ended anti-Semitism and toasted to it, go ahead and tell us what we're talking about today.
I thought we were talking about Draculas. We're actually talking about Draculas today.
And I think I have an idea for what we can do. Remember back in the day with Slenderman, you had to say Slenderman, otherwise you had to drink. I think today the game should be, since we're both drinking, the game should be...
I just finished my drink.
You're going to have to go prepare another one.
I'd have to make another one.
I have an intermission screen that we can do while you go make one, but let me tell you the story.
It's encouraging you to drink more. I'm not going to argue.
All right. Well, let me tell you the thing that we're going to do.
All right. Okay. All right.
The rule is you can't say vampire. You have to say Draculas.
I'll win at this game. I always win at games.
I'll probably fail because there are some times that I think I have to as part of the story or whatever. But if you slip up and you say vampire or vampires instead of Dracula or Draculas respectively, you have to drink. That's going to be the rule.
Fair enough. That seems like a good enough. Should I rush and make my drink real quick while you ramble or something?
No, you don't have to rush because I told you I have an intermission screen. So take the next 2 minutes and everyone at home can watch this intermission screen.
All right, fair enough. Filled up here, so ready to go. I'll take one sip and then we can start your little game.
All right. I'd like to play a game.
Is that like a reference? I never saw any of it.
Well, you should. They're halfway. They're decent. Yeah. Mike actually wants to know what the word is you can't say.
What word?
The word that you're not allowed to say. Otherwise, you have to drink if you say it.
The N-word? Are we talking about the N-word?
Nuh-uh, for the game.
I don't know. I don't know.
I think I fucked it up because I said the one for the game, the one you're not allowed to say. I'm retarded.
You forget a pro gamer.
I know.
Just call me Yugi because I'm good at games. That's what that is Japanese for game, by the way. It's also a reference to Yu-Gi-Oh! For those of you nerds out there that
I was gonna
are
say,
like me.
if I recall, you're like you're well versed in the blue-eyed white dragon.
Yeah, I know how to summon that thing in attack mode, bro.
Well, blue-eyed white dragon is actually, I don't know if you know this, but with cancel culture, right? They're digging up stuff from the past and they're saying,
Oh,
"Oh, that's actually a racism." Yoga is now racist, right? If you participate in yoga, you're
like the Hall Sim from Street Fighter.
no, it's a
Is that
different
racist? Yoga flame
guy.
for
With the
that?
super long arms while he's meditating. Yeah, that guy.
Yoga
So
flame.
blue-eyed white dragon is actually based off of, and it's actually a symbol for Adolf Hitler. I don't know if you knew that.
No,
Yeah, for
because of the blue.
well, because of the whole Aryan movement during World War II. They're saying that's what they're saying it is now. Is it's part of this whole blonde hair, blue eye, white dragon. And the white dragon, you think of dragon, you think of the grand dragon, right, of the KKK.
So what you're saying is it's the blue eyes, blonde haired white dragon.
Yeah, he's got to have blonde hair too.
Yeah, the blue eyes, blonde hair, Aryan dragon.
Yeah, responsible for horrendous atrocities that were committed in the early to mid 20th century. So what do we? So we're talking about the Draculas, right? I should have gone
about Dracula.
Yeah, I should have gone through my notes and erased that word, the word that shall not be spoken.
Can we talk about what we were supposed to do though, or are we not gonna are we not gonna talk about that until we actually do it? Because this was like a whim show. Like, to be fair, this wasn't what we were supposed to do this week. Yeah, to be fair, right? We were supposed to do a show where, and for those of you that are avid fans and viewers, we're doing a series of our fans, and I'd like to actually get some fans on the show to chit chat every now and then. But we're doing a series based on some topics that were given to us by our boy Mike in Manitoba, our #1 fan actually, and we're still debating some things about. We haven't really put it together as much as we'd like to, so we put that off for another week, and we're doing the Draculas this week. Right, we're going to talk about gay Draculas.
Well, not gay Draculas. I mean, there are gay Draculas in the discussion.
Let's be honest, all Draculas are gay.
That's not true. There are some decent Draculas. As I was doing my research, here's a V line, as I am wont to do, I found out that the word Dracula is actually, they often would use the word revenant, which I never paid attention to the word revenant. Like, I knew it was the title of that movie that Leo did that won him an Academy Award, but I didn't know that was tied directly to the Dracula folklore. And it turns out that's what they used to call them. They used to call them revenants. And because revenant, if you didn't know this, I had to look it up. A person who has returned, especially supposedly from the dead, is what revenant means. And that's the official definition. So now you know when somebody refers to a revenant, they're referring to a zombie or a Dracula or whatever. Which is also why that movie Revenant was about him supposedly dying and then coming.
Remember when he gets mauled by that bear? That was CGI, but it's insane. When you see that scene, it doesn't look like CGI. You're going, holy shit, he's really getting mauled by a bear. But it was just him flopping around. That's all it was. He just flopped around. That's why he got an Academy, dude, because he was good at flopping around. He flopped around well.
That's true. Did they have now I have to know, did they have somebody in a green screen outfit slapping him a bit, moving in the way that the bear would? Or no?
All a dude like a bear.
Well, yeah,
and
in
a green bear outfit.
Well, how James Gunn's brother plays Rocket in Guardians of the Galaxy. He wears the green suit, and then people have to pet him and hug him and whatnot, and he's got to climb on shit, and then they replace him with Rocket later. I wonder if they had a bear. I wonder if they had a bear.
I don't know.
I
Who
wonder if it
knows?
was a gay man, like a hairy gay man who was
Like
wearing a green suit.
like a
Because,
bear. Yeah.
well, yeah, that's what they call him, right? I mean, like you would know, right? I don't know why, like I said all that. I implicated myself in that. Yeah, they're called bears in the
I
gay
don't know how that's
community.
pertinent. I get you. I understand what you're
It
saying,
was a
but
bear playing a bear, right?
yeah.
That's what I was getting at. All right.
Sure.
Um,
So what's your point here about gay vampire? Oh shit,
I'm
man.
not the
I
one.
think that I think
Oh!
that counts. All right. What are you getting at here about the Draculas?
Well, I was just going to tell you some interesting factoids about Draculas, and then we can move. Do you have your Wikipedia pulled up while I talk about
I
this?
can't. I can. I will. Are we
All right.
looking up Draculas or the other thing?
Well, you're going to want to look up the other thing. You're going to look up bears in the gay community, and then
What other thing? What other thing?
it starts with one of these guys. I'm just going to I'm going to distance myself as far away from it as I can.
Listen, I'm gonna force you to say this because I had a drink.
It's not going to happen.
What is it that you want me to look up on Wikipedia?
Well, I would love for you to look up what is Dracula again? Like, what is he? What would he be classified as?
What is he classified as? He's a Dracula.
Whatever. Yeah, but there's like something, I don't know what it's called. I'll tell you
like
what.
A blood drinker, like a blood drinker.
Here's what you do. Look up the word strigoi in Romanian, or look up the word vrikolikos in Greek, or striga in Albanian. And I think that's what you'll find what you're looking for.
Striga? I don't know. I don't even know what you're talking about now. It's a it's a liquor. You want me to look up a liquor? What is this word you want me to Google?
Oh, gosh, I wish I remembered what this dang thing was called. But
can you spell it out?
No, I don't. I'm a terrible speller. And in the 18th century, right? This is where it actually stemmed from. In Southern Europe, there was the 18th century Dracula controversy. Okay, when are you okay over there?
Yeah, I'm smoking weed.
And during this time, people were accused of being Draculas, and they were often killed because people thought that they were Draculas. Very similar to what preceded it, the Salem witch trials. Another fun fact that has to do with witches is that a group of Dracula is actually called a coven. I know how you like to know what groups of things are called. A group of Dracula is actually called a coven, which is what a group of witches is called.
I was gonna say, isn't that like a group of witches too? Yeah.
It is indeed. Did you want to give just a brief overview of what a
Sure.
Dracula is?
I'll read it here from what I have on the Wikipedia. It says a Dracula. It doesn't say Dracula, obviously, but I'm not gonna fall for that one. Is a creature from folklore that subsists by feeding on vital essence, generally in the form of blood of the living. In European folklore, Draculas are undead creatures that often visited loved ones and caused mischief or deaths in the neighborhoods they inhabited while they were alive. They wore shrouds and were often described as bloated and of ruddy or dark countenance. Ruddy? What the fuck is ruddy?
I think it means darkened, like darkened.
Okay. Markedly different from today's gaunt, pale Dracula, which dates from the early 19th century. Vampiric do you want me to keep reading, or is that like a good gist?
I think that's fine. What'd you take away from all that? Ruddy is having a healthy color to your face, by the way.
They weren't actually light skinned. They weren't these like white, pale. They weren't the kid from fucking, what's his name? Robert Pattinson?
Yeah, huh?
Which is totally gay, right? Gay fucking Twilight. But he's also Batman. Can we reference Batman since we're going to talk about Draculas today?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean...
I was going to make the case that Batman is actually a Dracula. Yeah.
Yeah. So, just to be clear, he may have been gay at one time, but he's probably going to be good at Batman, I think.
I think
That's
he
my.
will be. I agree. I think he's going to play a very dark and gritty kind of Batman, the kind of Batman we wanted all along. That they kept saying, "Oh, you want a gritty Batman?" And we're like, "Yes." And they're like, "All right, here's Michael Keaton, you know, or here's Val Kilmer, here's George Clooney. We want a dark and gritty Batman. Oh, here's George Clooney. Here's Jim Carrey to play the Riddler. That's dark." And then you look at the preview for the Batman that's coming out now with Robert Pattinson, and it's got like the Riddler. Looks like a mummy. He's got all the crap wrapped around his face, and then he's writing notes and shit all over the dead bodies and stuff. I think it's going to be very gritty, dark and gritty. I think.
Agreed. Yeah.
Definitely. So back in the day, like you were just saying, vampires looked much different than
what did you just say? What did you just say?
I just said the V word.
What was that? I almost didn't get that one. I was like, yeah, and then I was like, wait a second.
Somebody would have called me out in the chat. So, see, I was getting into performance mode. I forgot to keep my guard up.
You started. What do they call that? When you pontificate. Right, so you start like acting like you're, exactly.
Yeah. I was doing a soliloquy to the audience. I was talking to the audience.
But you actually blew it, dude. You blew it.
I blew it. All right. So, back in the day, now I got to be careful. Back in the day, Draculas were, they were scary and they looked different. They had this different dark kind of thing about them, this tone and this aura about them that was scary. And then now our modern Draculas are more lighthearted and lovey-dovey and
modern Draculas.
Yeah,
you're talking about
sexualized.
Your Twilight Draculas and your Leslie Nielsen Draculas and your Eddie Murphy Draculas. Is that what you're talking about when you say modern Draculas?
Well, yeah, I guess. I'm talking modern, so 1900s to now, because the beginning of our it could actually date back even further than that.
So like Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt Draculas, like Interview with the Vampire Draculas.
Yeah, those are part of them. Now, here's the thing about Draculas is we have many different kinds of Draculas now, which is interesting because the history of the Dracula includes many different mythologies and many different beliefs, and then obviously with these beliefs came different ways to fight the Draculas and to kill them, and what caused Draculaism, right?
Draculaism?
Yeah.
Draculaism? You made that word up.
I did, but what I did was I took the old word and I made it into something new by merging two words. That's some Shakespearean shit. Draculaism.
That's like a one of those urban, what do they call it? What's that website? The Urban
Dictionary. Yeah.
Urban Dictionary. Draculaisms. You know what? That doesn't sound like what it would be. Draculaism sounds like things that like Draculas do. Like they have like some Draculas that blue thing, right? And some Draculas they like to sleep.
Oh, they're calling you out in the chat, V.
Did I say vampire? Oh, Draculaisms.
Yes, Draculaisms.
Come on, that's a funny joke.
These are things. Draculaisms are. They're things that Dracula says and does, right? So like, I want to suck your blood. That's a Draculism.
Yeah.
But also,
because they have that Romanian accent.
Yeah. Which is interesting because in Romania they were called Strigoi, and I want to push that. I want to remind people of that because that's some fun topic of discussion that you can introduce later. Yeah. Also in Greek, it's Vrikolakas and Striga in Albanian, and I'm sure there's like many different names for them over the years. But because for the longest time, actually, people thought that they were demons, and they thought that they were spirits, and
Draculas.
They thought Draculas were those things. Yeah. What'd you say?
Yeah. I said we're still talking about Draculas, right? Like
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Generally Draculas.
They thought that Draculas were the product of demonic possession and malevolent spirit inhabiting the body after somebody died. So that was for a long time. That's how it went down. But then the word Dracula didn't actually come around until we're talking like the 1800s, right? Because, or no, I'm sorry, it would be the 1700s. During the 18th century Dracula controversy, right? But then in the 19th century, this was the big turning point for Draculism, or for Draculas in general, especially in the literary world, because this is when a book called The Dracula with a Y.
Oh, really? With a Y?
Yeah, it was spelled Vampyre. Dracula with a Y.
I don't know. I think that counts. I think that counts.
We'll let the fans decide. If they think that one counts, let me know in the chat, and I'll own up to it. By John Polidori in 1819, and then Carmilla by Joseph Sheridan Le Fanu, which was about a female Dracula.
That's a weak ass name.
Yeah, it's a lot to try to say.
So what is he, Italian? Like a fucking Mamagucha?
Well, he was from Ireland, if I recall. And I think the Le would be French, if anything.
Right.
Somebody said drink. J.C. Braun. Well, J.C. Braun, we got, All right. Counts. James Pregler said it counts. All right.
So these Draculas that we're talking about here, we're talking about like origin story, like where the name of Draculas came from. We're not talking about like the Dracula.
Well,
we're just talking about Draculas in general, right? Like before the Dracula, there were still Draculas, right?
Right. Now, the thing about the Dracula, there have been a lot of the Draculas who came and went throughout history. And the Dracula, as we know him, comes from Bram Stoker, who wrote the book Dracula.
Goldman and Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, that guy. That's not the guy.
Yeah, Winona Ryder. I think she shows a boob in that movie.
You're talking about the one with Johnny Depp, What We Do in the Shadows, right? Or no, Dark Shadows.
No, what we do with Jermaine Clement.
Yeah, that's another one. There's a lot of Dracula stuff going on.
Right?
I don't know. I haven't watched it. Is it good? Should I watch it?
It is. Yeah, watch it.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
But Dracula by Bram Stoker actually came out in 1897. He was the last of the literary works of the 19th century to talk about Dracula. And his version of Dracula had the biggest impact on modern Draculas, which is kind of an interesting tidbit.
That is it.
I actually have his book right here.
So are if I'm getting ahead of you, let me know. But are you trying to make the argument that like this guy created the idea of Draculas, like in general, or something that came before Bram Stoker in general? Because there were writings about the revenants before, right?
Oh, sure.
That's what we're saying, right?
But his story is about the Dracula, right? Not the Strigoi, right?
Yeah. Sure.
His was about the Dracula, the head guy who kind of started the whole movement, who rallied, a bunch of people, and they stormed the capital of Transylvania together. He was that guy, and he created the idea of
Right. I
Dracula.
saw that. It was in a video game with Simon Belmont. Remember Simon Belmont?
You're thinking of Castlevania.
It all happened in a video game, I swear.
And Castlevania is actually a continuation of Bram Stoker's Dracula. I don't know if you knew that. But yeah, his idea, his vision of Dracula, as well as Draculae, which is the plural of Dracula.
Yeah, Draculae. That's pretty good. I'll give you that one.
his vision for them, it had the biggest effect on modern Draculae. For instance, here's one. I'm gonna see if I can find some vampire. Oh, Draculas.
What was that? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm coming. Before anyone yells at me in the chat. Draculas don't... See, this is what I get for not editing my thing before we started the show. Draculas don't have a reflection or a shadow. Bram Stoker made that up. That's just something that he just made up in his...
Well, that's not even just like some shit. That's not even... It's not even true.
No.
Like, if you ran into a real vampire, you're fucked, because if that's the information you have, then you are wrong, buddy.
Yeah, he would also make you drink because you just said that word.
Oh. Did I?
It's so hard not to say it when that's the topic of discussion.
Yeah, you blew it, dude. All right, okay. So continue.
That was just made up by Bram Stoker. Also, turning into a bat was something that he just kind of made up. Because in the story, he turns into a bat several times. And prior to that, actually, they named the Dracula bats such based off of old Draculas, right? So this is going to get real confusing real quick, right?
Once we start talking about Dracula and Draculas, it's going to get out of hand is what's going to happen.
It's going to get very difficult the drunker we get, so you got to be real careful not to say it.
Right? Try to follow.
But Dracula bats are based off of the original Draculae, not the other way around. It's not like Dracula bats.
Dracula.
Yeah, and then people
the Dracula.
Were like, oh, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, they used to bite. They used to bite people and cattle, and they would leave the marks. And people are like, "Oh, they drink blood. We should call
like
them
Chupacabra, right?
Yeah,
like Chupacabra."
The Chupacabra is a spin-off of Dracula mythology.
It's like a sequel, right?
Yeah,
it's like a side story, right?
Well, it's like Sam and Cat was to iCarly or whatever.
Yeah.
I picked like the worst one to pick.
The spin-off show about Draculas.
Yeah.
But it's actually just a Chupacabra. It's the Mexican.
Chupacabra. I'm gonna beat the shit out of Chupacabra. He has a hard time with that word.
Yeah, Chupacabra.
Chupacabra. So I'm gonna go ahead and read you the description of what a Dracula
all right.
would look like. How people would, because people would have. It's not always like, let me do my best to describe this without saying that word. People were legitimately afraid that their loved ones were going to turn into a Dracula during this Dracula controversy.
Right.
And so when their loved one died, they would look for signs of Draculism. And
they just left it on the ground after they jacked up. Oh, my Draculism is all over me.
They got Draculism everywhere. So they would look for these attributes, all right? Bloated in appearance as opposed to normal decomposition. Ruddy, purplish, or dark in color skin, which was attributed to somebody who drinks blood. The blood would kind of flush their skin and make them rosier. Blood dripping from the mouth or nose. The left eye being open. If somebody had a loved one who had their left eye open after they died, they thought that they were going to become a Dracula. Teeth, fingernails, and hair have grown somewhat. The fangs were not a requirement. That was something that came later. Nobody actually ever attributed fangs to Draculism.
Because we already have canines.
Well,
we already have canines, right?
I think they mean like the ones in the front, like the Nosferatu.
The underbite, right? The underbite with the actual
No, that wasn't a thing either. Those were all the things that they looked for. What I just listed. That was what people had a checklist of things to look for to make sure that your loved one wasn't turning into a Dracula.
Really?
Yeah, and then
I have the Dracula teeth, actually. I always wondered about that since I was a kid.
well, you might have been a Dracula.
Yeah. Can you see him?
Yeah. Mine are all jacked up. Like I have poorly lined up Dracula teeth because mine actually I didn't get braces as a kid.
I was gonna say you passed on braces like I did too.
Yeah.
I was like, pass.
Yeah, I didn't do it.
Yeah,
And
should have done that. Should have done braces.
hindsight being what it is, I couldn't have back in the day. I mean,
I guess you still can, right? Can you still do braces?
Oh yeah, you can get Invisalign. Do you
Have
think
straight Dracula teeth?
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you think Draculas would use Invisalign?
Yeah, sure. They'd have to get like a specific style, right? There's like a Dracula style
Invisalign for Draculas, and it's got like it's like a farmers only ad or whatever. It's like a dating site, but for braces for vampires. Very exclusive. Like, who are they catering to?
What was that for? What?
Did I say it?
Yeah, drink.
Ugh.
Wasted. I'm already wasted. I've been drinking all day.
Well, it's like a dating show. It's like a dating app for Draculas. All right. It's very exclusive, and it's very like catered to one niche audience or niche audience, however you want to pronounce it. There's two ways.
Sure.
I would love to see the business plan on that advertisement and why they were willing to pay that much money for an advertisement on primetime television for an exclusive braces company specifically for Draculas. I'd love to see that.
All right.
Else?
I don't know. I mean, you covered like
is that it?
Of Draculas, right? Like that's like the gist of where Draculas came from, and this is pre-Dracula, right? Like that's what we're getting at here is the Dracula stuff came before the actual Dracula. Like that's what I'm excited to talk about, the actual Dracula, because I have like an interesting anecdote about it. So when we get to that, I'm pumped about it. Dracula, in general.
Yeah. So the Dracula versus Dracula. You're talking about one of the Dracula, one of the ones who was labeled the Dracula, because there were several, right? Not lowercase d, but capital D.
Capital D,
capital
right?
D, yeah.
Dracula. What does he say on Aquatine?
Dracula.
Yeah, Dracula.
Rules about vampires. Here's some. And one of them would be about drinking.
Rules
I wish I'm gonna, for the rest of the show, I'm gonna sit here and talk about how
you are failing this game. I don't think I've said vampires once, dude.
You just said it just now, so go ahead and drink.
Oops. That was not. Yeah.
So rules about Draculas. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
This was the one Bram Stoker made up, was that they don't have a reflection or a shadow, and that was about not having a soul. The soul is removed, so they don't have.
Oh yeah, that makes
shadow. Draculas must be invited in someplace the first time. If you don't once you invite them in the first time, they can come and go as they please after that. But this is why I don't have a welcome mat at my house.
Yeah, of course. My mat says go away.
Yeah. Mine just doesn't. Mine says hi or something. It's very like generic, which I'm sure infuriates Draculas when they come up to my house, because they're they see they normally see the welcome mat and they're like, that's it, because that's what I figure is if they see the welcome mat, they're like, that's a come on in. But if they don't see a welcome mat, they're kind of stuck. So people with a welcome mat are more likely to be victims of Dracula violence than people who don't. So that's why he comes up to my door. It says hi or season's greetings or whatever, and he looks at it and he's like, now I gotta actually work for this one, you know. And then and then we go through the whole thing of them trying to come in without a warrant.
I thought of like a funny have you been subjected to Dracula violence? Call 1-800. Are you living in home by yourself and you have a welcome mat, and so Draculas just keep coming into your house?
There's a ton of them, like one after one. People they're subjected to it.
1-800 Draculaisms. Draculaisms, right?
That's not enough, or that's too many letters.
Yeah.
How many letters? There's probably another word that would fit better into that scheme.
What the?
Oh, yeah, like 1-800. There's like a 7-letter word for Dracula that would probably fit better for like a 1-800 number. Do you know of any?
You're asking me. I had like 4 White Russians today, dude. I'm wasted.
Yeah, but like, surely you know
idea
of another word for a Dracula that's 7 letters that you could use for a phone number for like an attorney who's trying to help you.
Is it 7 letters? Is that word 7 letters for real too? 1-800.
Spell it out for us if you could.
No. I refuse. I'm already. So where are we at? What's going on here in the chronological things?
Causes of Draculism. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Causes of and it's again, I've been led astray by my own sheet. Causes of Draculism. Former witches. People who were former witches were believed to have a higher likelihood of becoming Draculas.
What? So you're saying there wasn't like an original Dracula? There wasn't an original Dracula that just like that's interesting. I've always wondered about that. Like, there wasn't a Dracula that made all the Draculas. It was like something else that like maybe like what is that show that you like, The Strain, with your gay Clay Aiken, right? Clay Aiken or whatever.
He's not even in that show.
Like a virus. Isn't that what it is?
Yeah, it is. But it's a vampire.
It has, what's his name?
It's a Dracula.
Zach. Isn't it? And they pound each other.
That doesn't happen in Strigoi. In Strain.
No.
I'm an honest man, and I'll take a shot.
It's a fucking Tamagotchi.
By the end of this, I'm not going to be able to I'm not going to be able to get up the stairs.
We're gonna be lost. So what are you telling me, that Draculaism didn't start with an original Dracula?
Not according to these people.
Really?
And what they said was,
"Sir, you have my intrigue."
You had my attention, but now you have my whatever it goes. Whatever the Revenant said.
Sure.
Now this is where it gets interesting too, because I think it had a lot to do with, I mentioned it earlier about the Satanic Panic and about the church getting involved, right? And one of the other things that would lead to Draculism is one who rebelled against the Russian Orthodox Church, which I think would be a good way to keep people in the seats, right? They'd keep them in the pews, right?
Oh, I was way off. I was thinking KGB. So you're saying it wasn't Boris?
This is before KGB.
Boris the Dodger.
There were no. The KGB doesn't precede Draculas.
Oh,
it may be an old institution, but
I assume the KGB, Boris the Blade, had to be around at that point, right?
More like Boris the fucking the sneaky fucking Russian.
Yeah, Boris the Bullet Dodger. Why do they call him the Bullet Dodger?
Because he dodges bullets heavy. There's more.
Okay, so there's more. Go ahead.
There's more. Let me continue.
I'm going to try to keep us from getting straight off, even though we're both probably drunk by now.
And because we're going to, I mean, like, the sooner we can power through this, the sooner we can, like, avoid alcohol poisoning.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
So, former witches, one who rebelled against the Russian Orthodox Church, a body with a wound that was not treated with boiling water. So, like, this is somebody who died, and then they didn't treat the wound afterwards. They would have to pour
So,
boiling water in the wound. Yeah,
like fucking gangrene or some shit.
I guess. I mean, you'll see a lot of these correlations between what went down and Draculism being
Right.
like there are some cases where just ignorance of what we know now being the culprit. All right.
Right.
A dog or cat jumping over the body. So like if somebody was dead and an animal walked over a body, one of the superstitions was that person would become a Dracula.
That is asinine. It's like,
Well, there are some equally.
like if it was a bat, I would get that. But if it was like a cat or a dog, then like wouldn't you assume they'd become like a werewolf or a were-tiger or something? That's baseless, right? It doesn't make sense to me. There's no theory there.
Well,
I'm not with you on that one, bro.
These are not my opinions. These are the opinions of
I think they
historical
are.
figures. I'm just making shit up over here. And also, if they jerked off 3 or 4 times a week, then also they became a Dracula.
Yeah,
just
that
making
makes
shit
sense.
up on Wikipedia.
Well, if that was the case, I would have been a Dracula all week long, forever.
You might have been. You might be.
Since I was 14, I'd be a Dracula.
There's more. Suicide. Suicide was a way to become a Dracula.
Really?
So again, that's another thing where maybe you were like trying to convince your kid not to commit suicide, and you were like, or you're trying to like prevent suicide. This is like some scare tactics, some scared straight stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where they're like, now if you commit suicide, you're going to turn into a Dracula, and we all know how much God hates that. You know.
Yeah, God hates Draculas.
We know that to be irrefutably true. Malevolent spirits possessing a corpse. That's one that you should know for later, because there's more on that later. And then being bitten by a Dracula is also a way to become a Dracula.
Really?
That's like the final way to become a Dracula. So there's
So-
clearly
so that-
like, you know, you imagine becoming a Dracula, like the primary cause of becoming a Dracula is being bitten by a Dracula. That's not the case. Based off of historic documents.
Right.
Based off of historic documents, that was the least probable cause of becoming a Dracula.
Is being bitten by another Dracula.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that the least probable way to get, and just so that we're clear here, the least probable way to become a Dracula was by getting bitten by a Dracula? Like more logical was getting stepped over by a cat when you were dead? That seems asinine to me.
Yeah. That's how it was. That's just what they believed.
That's ridiculous. It makes more sense to me if it was like a virus or some shit, like it was going around. Like when you always tell me about that show, The Strain, that you watch, I always think about that. Like that makes sense to me. Like, right? Like I go to logic, right? Like what we know. We're modern, bro. We have technology. We understand science to like some degree, right? So if it was ever a thing, like a vamp.
Nice.
Does that count?
It does.
If Draculaism was ever actually a thing, hang on, I'll do that. If Draculaism was ever a thing, then shit, I don't know. I don't remember what I was talking about, dude. This episode is gonna be shit because we're really drunk as fuck, both of us. Oh, if Draculaism was a thing and it started like from a Dracula, right?
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get it, dude. You're gonna have to keep clarifying. Where did it all start? Where did Draculaism start? Was there a first Dracula, or was there like a virus?
Based on my research, no, there was not an original Dracula. It was something that, now, I would argue, theologically, the original Dracula was Lucifer. Hear me out, all right? Because one of the big primary beliefs about Draculas is that they were malevolent spirits and that they were possessed by, and even people would even think that their family members were possessed by the devil, and that's what caused Draculism. And they would use that excuse.
Draculaism all over the place, dude. They just Draculaismed everywhere.
Mike said, "Glad the Impale is." Mike is just as intoxicated as we are. That's why I love having Mike in the chat, because like anytime I feel like I'm under the influence, I just look at Mike's texts and I'm like, oh, I'm doing all right. Also, welcome to the chat, Acid Raposi. If you haven't already, go listen to some of his music. Whiskey Grenade. He does a band. He's got some really good music. I've heard. I don't know if it's released, if it's dropped officially yet, but I heard the studio version of Wood Chipper Go Brr, and it was actually really good. And I look forward to
definitely go follow that dude. He's cool as fuck.
Funny guy. Yeah, but there was no. But I would say the original Dracula would arguably be Lucifer, in that, like, he kind of stirred up.
Okay.
If I were to go from a theological position,
Draculas came from hell, is what you're saying here.
Yeah, well, that's what a lot of the people thought, and they think that the demonic has something to do with Draculism. So, and Mike, I know you're stoned, you're not drunk. That's why I said intoxicated. I meant under the influence. So, just clarifying that, Mike. Mike's the only one, like, I'll directly, like, I'll just carry on a conversation with while he's doing a chat or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, and then how do you find a vampire? I took some notes on finding vampires. That's how you find them.
2 times. That was 2 times that you said that.
Well, I guess I'm taking 2 drinks then. This notepad will be the death of me.
This is, what are we thinking? You know what's funny? I think when we started this and when you told me we're doing a show about vampires.
About what?
Oh man, when you told me we were doing this show, I knew. Hang on. I was surprised because we'd never done a show like this ever. Like, with how many episodes? We're like on 70 something.
Yeah.
74, and we haven't never done a show about Draculas.
Yeah.
God damn. How dare you let me get this wasted? And I've been drinking all day on top of all this.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty good excuse.
Yeah.
So, how to find a Dracula?
Okay, all right. How to find a Dracula? So we're talking to the Van Helsings now. Like, we're telling people, like, look, if you want to find a Dracula, Van Helsing, this is what you got to do. You got to, whatever information you're going to put out right now, that's going to be for those of you that are trying to be Dracula hunters, Simon Belmonts and what have yous,
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. That's the one. That's where we're at in the show, is we're teaching you how to kill, how to find and kill the Draculas. Not the Dracula, but how to find and kill Draculae. This is how you find them, okay?
Mm-hmm.
My beverage over. Holes in the ground above the grave are a sign of Dracula activity.
Okay.
Plump corpses with no sign of decomposition. So if they're not at the point where they should be in the decomposition, you got yourself a Dracula. Fresh blood on the face, which seems like an obvious no-brainer if they've got a whole bunch of blood all over their mouth and nose. Now here's a fun one. Here's what they used to do to find out who amongst the graveyard was a Dracula. They would send a virgin boy riding on a virgin horse. Now, depending on the country, it was either a white horse or a black horse. It just depended. They would send them through the graveyard, and the horse would balk at the grave of a Dracula. And if you don't know what balk means, it means to hesitate or to not continue forward. The horse would freak out when it reached a certain grave of a Dracula.
Cool, bro. Cool. Yeah, good word.
I don't know how they figured that out. If, like, scientifically, I don't know how they came to that realization that, like, oh, if we do this and this,
is it like a unit of measurement?
We can determine if a grave is housing a Dracula.
Okay, I
would assume a virgin boy was riding his horse that had never procreated with another horse, and he said, "Hey, I was riding through the cemetery and my horse stopped at the grave of so-and-so. And I remember you guys were saying something about him being a Dracula, so I just wanted to... And then they, like, continued the testing at that point.
I just brought it up.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it happens to be, just so you know.
I've never lain with a woman. That's what he would have said. And my horse hath never lain with a lady horse. And then also, here's something interesting, too. Something that I found interesting. Because it seemed like they were just pawning all their problems off on Draculas. Poltergeist activity is a sign of Draculas. So things were happening around the house, poltergeist activity, and rather than trying to reason, they said, oh, it's that damn Dracula again. And then also sleep paralysis. This was another one we've talked about in the past. People who experience sleep paralysis, they blamed it on Draculas. So that's, I don't know, that's just something to consider next time you have sleep paralysis. Might be a Dracula. Might be a demon, might be a ghost, might be a Dracula. I don't know.
Dracula when I get sleep paralysis?
Could be a Dracula trying to sit on, or sitting on your chest, holding you down. And you might never turn into a Dracula. Maybe they're just holding you down.
Are we equating Draculas to like demons here? Because that sounds demonic to me.
It seems.
I mean, I guess.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, I guess Dracula's and demon. There's a lot of connections there, right? So I mean, the Dracula came from hell, right? We're assuming that at least. So there's some demonic entity, at least based on the Castlevania games that I played. It always comes from hell, right?
Yeah. I would like to bring this to the attention of the court. I would like to bring this Exhibit A. No, this is a funny story that happened years and years ago when V and I were friends, back before all this. Because we're not friends now. We're not friends anymore.
Yeah.
When we first met, when we were in Fort Riley, I had a dog whose name was Anubis. And he was a mutt. He was just like, they found him on the tracks down in Texas, and they brought him in. They were going to kill him. I adopted him. So go ahead and shower me with praise and all that, like you do with all your ASPCA friends that have the bumper sticker on their car and shit.
Yeah. Okay, hipster.
Yeah, that was me. That was me. I adopted this little guy. And he looked like Anubis, the Egyptian god of the, or gatekeeper of the underworld. And so I named him Anubis, and we called him Cootie because when I got him from the pound, and it was not like the good pound that takes care of the animals. It's like it keeps them alive long enough to kill them. It was one of those. So I ended up, by the time I got this dog, he had every known canine disease that you could get. And so I ended up spending, it's like basically signing over 2 or 3 paychecks to the vet to get my dog fixed, get him back to normal. And so we called him Cootie because he'd had cooties. But anyways, I had this dog for years, for like many years. He actually just died a few years ago. But he was outside one day, and I had him tied up. This is at Fort Riley. I had him tied up, and some all of a sudden I'm taking a shit in my bathroom, which is where you take shits normally, right? I'm taking a shit in the bathroom right by the back door towards where he's at, and I hear him like squealing and yelling. So I jump up. Don't wipe, throw the paper down, right? I pull my pants up and I run outside, and there's this massive dog attacking Cootie. And so I wrestled this big dog off. I don't know what type of dog it is. It's a big nasty dog. It's dark. It's it's like 8, 9 o'clock at night. And I wrestle him off of Cootie, throw him to the side, and he runs off into the distance. And then I bring Cootie inside. And so I'm telling V this story the next day at work or whatever. And I say, and he goes, his question is not anything like, there's no, like, whatever question you think he might have asked, this is the question that he asked. So where did the dog come from? And then, but before I can answer, this is how it actually flows. He answers his own question. This is how it flows, okay? I'm going to pretend I'm V when he asks the question. So imagine the pause is exactly how it went down at the time. He goes, where did this dog come from? Hell, probably. And that was his answer. So now anytime something terrifying happens and you're like, where did that come from? Hell, probably is the answer. And that's a V joke from 2006. So if you ever hear us say something like that, that's where that came from.
Where did that come from? Hell, probably. Probably hell.
And that's where these Draculas come from. So, yeah, like you say, but that's what the people back then associated it with. They associated it with demonic possession and demonic influence and some kind of demonic shenanigans, malevolent spirits, whatever you want to call it, depending on your various religions, because all religions have their malevolent spirits. So they thought that these Draculas were malevolent spirits. So how do you stop a vampire?
What?
A Dracula.
I was focusing in on trying to catch you on that time too. I was like, I know he's gonna say it soon. Got him.
Anytime I have to start a new topic, I'm gonna fuck it up, because on my sheet it says blank 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 V word, right?
Yeah, drag.
So, I need to just like control, find, and replace everything in my Word document, but I'm not going to do that because it's probably funnier for the people at home. Probably funnier for the people at home. At some point, if like I just end the stream, it's because I ran to the bathroom to puke. All right, so just so everybody knows that.
I know. I got to tell you, I'm pretty wasted. I haven't even said vampire at all, and I'm still drinking the fucking.
You haven't said what?
Thing. I'm still well. Okay. My bad, because I've been drinking all day. You ever like pee for a second and it's just like that 10 seconds just feels like forever?
Yeah. I've been
It's
there.
like,
I call
wow,
it
I
time
feel like I'm
traveling.
peeing forever right now.
I call it time traveling.
Yeah, time traveling.
All right. How to stop Draculas. All right. Now, I want everybody at home to realize like what we've put on the line here tonight. Like, for their own entertainment, you know, we've sat here and we've committed to finishing our beverages. So how to stop Draculas? Garlic. That's a no-brainer, right? We've
Really?
heard that. Yeah, garlic.
It's a real thing. Garlic.
That's what they say. Yeah. And there's a reason for that, and hopefully I'll be able to get to that before I get too sick. Now here's one that you may not know. A branch of wild rose and hawthorn. Those are things that Draculas don't like.
Hawthorn is like an actual tree, like tree bark, right?
It's a type of tree, yeah. Sprinkling mustard seeds on the roof of a house is one way.
Would that work with like some Dijon? Like some grapes on Dijon mustache?
I don't know. I think it has to be the seed itself.
Oh, that's weak.
Anytime I use a word that's not in my regular vocabulary, I have to like stop myself before I say it because I'm like, is this the word? Like I just gotta make sure that it's not the word. A crucifix, a rosary, it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, that makes sense to me if they're from hell, right?
Well, that would certainly, yeah. There is some over. You know, I didn't even think of that. There is some overlap there, like of people who were like, "Oh, I stopped that Dracula by using a rosary," and then somebody else says, "Well, you know, that's a demon, right?" And they're like, "Ah, no, it's a different thing." You know, it's a different like you know, but it works, right? So like, yeah, that's an interesting thing. So holy water is another one, and a stake through the heart is a normal one we hear, right? That's one that we commonly hear. But also they would put there, depending on the country, they would say that the rule was to put a stake through the mouth or the stomach, and the ash was the preferred wood in Russia and the Baltic states, or hawthorn in Serbia, oak in Silesia.
Wood to killing Draculas?
There's a specific wood to kill certain Draculas depending on the region of the world that they were in, is what they thought. Now, these are the things. Now, you got to remember, back at that time, information wasn't as free-flowing, right?
Right.
So they had beliefs of like, well, no, this is how you kill a Dracula. This is how we kill a Dracula. And when all of a sudden a ship would come through a trade route, they would say, you guys having problems with Draculas? Because we're having problems with Draculas. And how do you kill them? And they're like, well, we use ash stakes through the heart or the mouth or the stomach or whatever. And they're like, that's weird because we actually use hawthorn through the chest. So, you know,
it's interesting. You paint like an interesting picture because if that was a real, like, could you imagine being like some seaside town and they're just all, the town over next door, they've had a lot of problem with Draculas, and they go, what? I've heard that if you stake them through the mouth, you won't have any issue with these Draculas, right? And so you've got these normal people that are like, maybe they have, AIDS and they don't know it or something, and the next thing you know, they're like, no, it's got to be Dracula. And they stake him through the mouth or the heart or the chest because it's got to be a Dracula, right?
Yeah. No doubt in my mind. Here's the fascinating thing. So here's all those other, the ash, the hawthorn, or the oak, those stakes, those were chosen by different groups. And who knows why they chose those, whether or not they were like the most prevalent or whether it was like an oak logger who was like really successful in convincing his people, hey, these are what you need to kill a Dracula.
It was just like some capitalist that had a bunch of stock in like oak. He's all, no, oak is the best.
Oak is the way to go if you want to kill a Dracula. I'm telling you. But here's the thing. There was another country. I don't remember which one it was because I didn't write it down. But aspen was the preferred method or the preferred wood to use for the stakes because they believed that Christ's cross was made from aspen. They believed that the wood that was used for his cross was aspen. So they thought that was the best one to use for the stakes. Also, they would use aspen branches and they would lay them across the graves of people they suspected of being Draculas because they didn't want them rising from the grave and they knew that they couldn't rise.
Oh, yeah, because they're undead, right? So they can come back from the dead, right?
Right. And then here was one way. One of the things about the chest was, I don't know if you've seen it, and I know I've seen it a few times in movies, where they don't necessarily, because you're not dealing with people who are medical professionals, right? You're dealing with like everyday Joes who are fighting these Draculas, and they will stab randomly.
You're everyday Van Helsing.
Right. Yeah, no, not your everyday Van. You're not your everyday Van Helsing. These are like your everyday like Tom Millers, right? Like just the dudes who are just like, hey, I'm here to kill Draculas. Okay, I'm not a professional, but they'll just stab wherever in the chest, and that will kill the Dracula. Now there was a belief that stabbing in the chest in general was enough to kill the Dracula, because these Draculas they would inflate a little bit when they became a Dracula. They would get bigger than what they were as a human. Like when
it's not like in the movies, they don't like turn to dust when you kill a Dracula with a stake.
Maybe
they just
I don't know. They deflate.
Yeah. It's interesting to me because like you think about like there were actual Dracula hunters out there, and if they were real or not, and like they knew or believed in Draculas, there was a guy that had a job that was like, this is what I do, man. I kill Draculas. I kill Draculas. And people paid him. You know, he went to those little coastal towns and he was like, you know, there's a Dracula nearby. I got you.
I think about the movie Brotherhood of the Wolf, and how these two guys are like detectives, but they're sent to kill the werewolf. And there were people like that who, like you're talking about, these are guys who were sent to kill the Draculas in the community. And that was the thing. And that would be, what a gig. What a grift, right?
I think that now that we're more drunk, we're better at saying Draculas instead of the other.
And it's, you know what it is?
Careful about it.
You know what it is? It's because we normally say Draculas. We never say the other word.
I can't drink anymore. I'm like wasted, so like it has to be Draculas.
Because you'll die.
Yeah, I'll pass out. You'll be talking to some schmuck here. Some fucking magoose.
Oh, the scabadoosh.
Yeah. So, are we ever going to talk about the actual Dracula?
No, we're not there yet. We're not there yet. I mean, we got 20 minutes. We got 20 minutes to go. You got to not say the V word.
We got 20 minutes to talk about the real Dracula.
Well, no, we're not even there yet. You can talk about the real Dracula when the time comes. I almost did the wrong way. But anyways, how to prevent a Dracula from rising after death? Because people were legitimately worried about, like I said, people were legitimately worried. Also, Megabit says, what about hickory? And in my studies, I didn't see anything about hickory. So if you have information, please let us know and we'll relay it, obviously. But how to prevent them from rising from the dead? These people legitimately were afraid that their loved ones were going to become a Dracula.
So close.
That they would do anything that it took to not allow that to happen. And as you said at the very beginning of this episode, they the Draculas would come back and they would go after the family members. They would, I forget what movie it was. And Mike has beaten me to this because he said brick in the mouth to keep them in the grave. He beat me to it because that's part of my next little segment. Thank you, Mike. I forget where I was going. Fucking. I'm struggling. Hold it together, Tom. Hold it together.
Happens. That's what happens.
How do we prevent them? Oh yeah, because they would come back and they would kill the family members. And I saw a movie just recently. It's a movie that I enjoyed too, where they would come back and they would kill the ones that they loved. Specifically, I forget what movie it is.
Bicentennial Man with Robin Williams.
That's
right?
a different. That's not the guy. You're thinking of. You're thinking of I, Robot with Will Smith.
Yeah.
So this
AI,
is how
AI with
with Joel
Joel Osment.
Yeah. That's the one. That's the one I was thinking of. So how do you prevent them from rising after death? Here are some tips and tricks.
Mm-hmm.
They would bury sharp objects with the body so that if it bloated into a vampire, it would pop them. That was a real thing that they did.
A what? If it loaded into a what?
If it bloated into a V word, which I just said. I told you, this damn Word document.
I can't do it. I have to be so careful because I'm like drunk, dude. I can't.
It's this Word document's gonna get me. I need to be more careful.
Yeah, look what you did, man. You're the one that created this game, and I'm all like slurring my words already. Like, you did this to us, man.
You blew it, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, Mike said it's Luis Guzman is who we're thinking of.
Of course. That's perfect sense. He was in that.
So
Interview with Dracula.
Interview with the... No, he's in that show Twilight where he's the Dracula.
Yeah. Twilight with a Dracula.
So they'd bury sharp objects.
Dracula's in Brooklyn.
It's Dracula's versus Brooklyn, first of all. Or the Bronx. Dracula's versus... Because I watched it today.
Dracula Dead. Isn't that the name of the movie? Dracula Dead and Loving?
That's the Leslie Nielsen one.
Yeah, with the... That guy's awesome.
Well, he's dead. And probably
loving it. This Dracula. So what are you getting at here? Are we ever going to talk about the real Dracula?
Let me finish. Allow me to finish. Let me redeem myself. They'd bury sharp objects with the body, so if it bloated into a Dracula, it would pop them. Decapitation with the head buried, and then they would take the severed head and they would bury it between the legs, behind the buttocks, or away from the body. Staking the head, body, or clothes to the ground to prevent it from rising. They would drive steel or iron needles into the corpse's heart, place bits of steel in the mouth, over the eyes, ears, and between the fingers. They would place hawthorn in the corpse's socks, or hawthorn stakes through the legs. They would force a brick into the mouth of the corpse, which, like Mike said, which was found by archaeologists actually pretty recently in the last few decades. They found examples of this. It was seen to be a sign of vampire slaying ritual in Venice. I heard myself.
I almost blew water out of my nose.
I heard myself say it.
Yeah. You're blowing it, dude.
I'm reading. I'm reading a thing.
Yeah, what can you do?
Pour boiling water. I'll do my shot in a second. Pour boiling water over the grave or incinerate the body. Repeat the funeral service. So they would do it once, and they would do it again. Kind of like an exorcism. Sometimes you got to do it a few times to actually make it stick. Sprinkle the holy water on the body. An exorcism is another way that they would do it. Shooting a bullet through the coffin was a popular way. Was a popular thing that they would do. Dismember the body, burning the pieces, mixing those pieces with the water, and administering that liquid to the family members as a cure. So if they thought that the family might have been infected by the Draculism, they could drink it.
Yeah. No, I got you.
Placing a lemon in the mouth of the corpse, burying them upside down so that they presumably wouldn't know which way to dig their way out. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Bury them with earthly objects. Now, this is where it gets interesting. I have a few tidbits here that I think are very interesting, actually.
Okay, all right, all right.
Bury them with earthly objects nearby to appease the demons. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, because that was when they thought they were demons. Like placing an obulus in the corpse's mouth to pay the toll to cross the river Styx. Okay.
I mean, I think that's like the consensus here, right? Like that's what we're like based on the knowledge that we have, everything that you just laid out for us. Logic tells me that Draculas came from hell. Like these things are demons. That's what a Dracula is. I mean, more or less, right? Even the stuff that when I played Castlevania in my life, that's came from hell.
I'm for anybody who's watching at home, I don't have it in me to switch the screen from me to V from now on. So if when V's talking and it just shows me sitting here with my finger on my lips or my finger on my chin or whatever, or scratching my face or vaping or whatever, that's just how it's going to be. All right. That's just. I'm sorry, V. I'll try and get you when it's time to shill, but you know, for when we're going back and forth, I don't think it's gonna happen.
I don't blame you at all.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there might be some truth to it. I think that there might be some truth to the idea. I think a lot of what we know now that we blamed on. Now, see, I have a different opinion on this than a lot of people. I think a lot of what we know now that we didn't know then that was blamed on demons, there's a reasonable explanation for. But I think also that the demonic hides behind a lot of that. And I think that they're able to use our knowledge of certain sciences to try to hide from us from detecting a normal scientific way. So like if somebody had schizophrenia, they might have schizophrenia. There's no denying that. But a demon would likely hide. Like for me, for instance, when I had extreme major depression and I also had a demonic oppression, I think that the demon hid behind a lot of my other issues. Because my issues didn't necessarily go away, but my issues improved. You know what I'm saying? So I think a lot of these people back then, I think they blamed a lot of stuff on demons that we now know are not demonic. But also at the same time, I think a lot of the demonic things could have still hid behind certain things because demons are knowledgeable about the times and they know what they can get away with. So I think back then they were like, well, whatever. If they're going to blame it on me, they're going to blame it on me or whatever. But now we're like, well, we know that there's no such thing as a Dracula, but...
Do we, though? Do we know there's no such...
That's what I'm saying. No. That's what I'm saying. Is like the general consensus is we know that there's no such thing as a Dracula. That's a fictional trope. That's like a story that we tell, to scare people on Halloween and shit. But... these same demons are like, well, I was a Dracula back in the 1700s, and I was
Dracula back when you were popping pimples on your ugly face.
Buddy, I'm OG, triple OG Dracula. I'm OD, triple OD Dracula.
Yeah.
OV, triple OV.
I've been Dracula since Dracula was Dracula. And I've been Dracula. Yeah, I was Dracula before you even thought Dracula was the thing.
Oh, boy. V, what are we doing with our lives?
I don't know, man. I don't know. We started out. This is your fault, man. You were the one that
strong.
You turned it into a drink.
We started strong, V, and we failed the viewer.
I told you when we started this show, I said, I'm already drunk. I can't drink more.
We failed the viewer, V.
Yeah.
And you know I'm not good at these games, so when I propose these games, I'm going to lose them.
Yeah.
You should be the one who's like, no, dude, remember last time you almost died? A wax cross and a piece of
So
pottery with the
But
words.
what about the actual Dracula? We're not ever
yet.
even gonna touch on the real Dracula.
We're not there yet. I have a lot of notes that I took. This is a long time. So. This is a long time we're dealing with. We're dealing with since the dawn of man. And I'm trying to help you. A wax cross in place of pottery with the words Jesus Christ conquers placed on the corpse. That's one way they prevented the Dracula. Severing the tendons at the knees was one way they... Because can you imagine a Dracula rising from the grave and then all of a sudden it can't walk and it's just like fumbling about or whatever because somebody cut its tendons or whatever? That's what they did. Now here's the good one. Here's one that I didn't know prior to this. Placing poppy seeds, millet, or sand on the gravesite. The Dracula would have to count the grains, which would keep him busy until sunrise. Now, why that is? Draculas are obsessive compulsive, and if a Dracula comes across a bag of rice, it has to count every grain.
So you're telling me that Draculas are neurotic?
They are. This is what I'm told. Now, so this is based off of one country in Eastern Europe, Southeastern Europe, as well as Asian countries. Mm-hmm. They believed that Draculas were obsessive compulsive. And that they would have to count the rice or the sand or the grains.
Do you think when they counted, they were like, 1,
Well, that's probably, you know what? That's probably where that character comes from. Is the 1, 2 grains of sand. 3 grains of sand. And then here are the lame-ass reasons people try to explain away Draculism. Ignorance of the decomposition process, shrinking of the skin around the hair, mouth, and fingernails, a contagion, clusters of death from unidentifiable or mysterious illnesses, porphyria, which is a liver disease that caused people to look like Draculas, premature burials, rabies, which now if you're like bullshit, let me tell you why. Sensitivity to garlic and light is a symptom of rabies, disturbance to normal sleep patterns, and hypersexuality. Legend even, and here's a fun fact about that. Legend even says that a man was not rabid if he could look at his own reflection in the mirror. Wolves and bats, which are often associated with Draculas, are both carriers of rabies. The disease can cause people to bite other people and froth at the mouth. And these are all signs of Draculism.
Yeah, that seems like logic to me. Like, if there's any disease that's close to what Draculism is, it's probably rabies, right? Yeah. Like, rabies is the closest thing we have to Draculism or werewolfism or any of those creatures that, you have to be bitten to become what they are. I think rabies is the closest thing we have to that, right? Would you agree?
Yeah, I would agree. Wholeheartedly.
So, are we ever going to talk about, like, the actual Dracula? Or
all right, you have 2 minutes. You have 2 minutes. No, you have as long as you need to talk about the real life Dracula, because there was real
Vlad Tepes. It's Tepes, just so you know. Vlad Tepes Dracula, who was like this, general of Romania, this Romanian area, and he had this like little gay brother that like went over to like Bulgaria and like banged this like Bulgarian, like there was some gay Dracula. Like, if you think that Twilight was the original gay Dracula, no, dude. Draculas have been gay since like the inception of Dracula. Like Draculas have been gay since then. So this dude who is, the original Dracula, Vlad Tepes Dracula, his brother bangs some Bulgarian, like whatever, county lord or daimyo if you were in Japan, and he sells out his brother Vlad Tepes, and Vlad Tepes, he doesn't appreciate that, so he starts putting people's heads on pikes, right? He puts them on pikes, and then he displays them in his courtyard for all these like Bulgarians that he killed or whatever. So I don't know if that's accurate, because I'm pretty drunk, to be honest. But I'm fairly certain that Vlad Tepes is the guy. He's the Dracula. What do you have to say about that?
Well, you know how I feel about Vlad. I had a bearded dragon when I was a child, and I named him Vlad.
Yeah.
And my dad thought it was the funniest thing, because my mom thought I was going to name him something cute, like Spike or whatever, but I named him Vlad.
Mm-hmm.
And but I've always been into this sort of stuff.
What, like gay vampires and Twilight and all that? Like,
yeah.
You'd blow Robert Pattinson.
Gay what, V?
Oh. Oh man.
So let me go through this here real quick, because I have here's some pictures of old Draculas.
Mm-hmm. Fascinating.
Well, I did all this work.
Does showing it on the screen count as like a...
I don't think so, because I didn't say it. And that was it was prepared.
We didn't get around to any of your... You have so many reference photos, and we didn't get around to any of them.
So these are Draculas back in the classic. So this is where I was going to go with this. I'll see if I can get through it.
Is there Stephen Dorff Dracula in here? So my favorite Dracula by far is Blade.
You know what? I had a question prepared for a game, V. See, I'm even afraid to say words that start with V, because I'm going to be traumatized after this. What is your favorite portrayal of a Dracula? And I have...
Of a Dracula or the Dracula?
Of Draculae.
Probably Stephen Dorff from Blade, the first Blade.
Yeah.
Braid if you're Chinese.
You know what?
I rock his name.
Wasn't his name like Frostbite or something?
It was Deacon Frost. He was like the coolest, most fashionable Dracula in any Marvel cinematic universe. Jared Leto ain't got nothing on this Dracula.
Well, I haven't seen Jared Leto as the...
Well, he's going to be Mobius.
Yeah, I don't know anything about Mobius, honestly.
Well, fucking Google that shit.
I mean, I know of it, but I don't know the first thing about, like, the guy or whatever as a D.
What is your favorite Dracula portrayal?
Well, you let me tell you what my favorite my favorite Dracula portrayal is. I had a bunch written down. I have Dracula movies and shows. I have them listed here.
Okay, all right. Is that gay one where the dudes bang each other?
No, I would never watch such a thing.
I don't know, dude.
I thought so, and I have two, right? I have 30 Days of Night. I thought did a very good portrayal of what I imagine Draculas would look like when they're feeding. I think 30 Days of Night I think they did the best job of doing that. But
right.
My favorite, I think in like a kind of a, let me take this to a place of pretentious kind of like, I like foreign film.
That's just I'm all about that.
To a point of like, hey, let me talk about the foreign film from back in my days of like when I used to watch film professionally, like you do. Remember the movie Let the Right One In, where it was a Swedish Dracula movie, and then they remade it almost instantly. Like as soon as the Swedish version came out, America decided, hey, we need to also make this a movie based off of the novel that you based your movie off of, kind of like they did with The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Sweden.
With, Rachel McAdams or whatever.
No, that's a different movie. You're thinking of a different movie. You're way off. Like this is Rory, the chick from Nightmare on Elm Street.
Daniel Craig.
Yeah. Okay, you're on the right track now. So they did Girl with the Dragon Tattoo in Sweden, and before they could finish the trilogy, America said, no, we're going to do it too. And then we did our own version of it. The same thing happened with Let the Right One In, which was a Dracula movie about a little girl who was a Dracula.
Was it a Dracula movie, or was it a movie about Draculas?
It was a movie about Draculas. And is about a little girl who is a Dracula, and she befriends some little boy, and then they have like this little friendship that blossoms, and you know, she continues to do her Dracula stuff, and he continues to do his real boy stuff. But then America did a version called Let Me In, which was the same exact, it was based off of the same exact thing. I think that was a pretty good Dracula movie. But as far as Dracula movies for a good time, like if you just want to have a good time watching a Dracula movie, I would say From Dusk Till Dawn would be
be
the way to go.
I'm with you on that.
And then as far as
Quentin Tarrant Gaylord and his
missing hole in his hand or whatever when he holds up his duct tape hand. But as far as TV shows go, because it's a different animal, you see a lot of TV shows about Draculas. And so for me, most realistic movie, 30 Days of Night. Most fun that can be had, From Dusk Till Dawn. Most like one that you can watch with your wife, Let the Right One In. Or Let Me In.
I feel like we'd be remiss if we didn't mention Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
We're getting there. We're getting there. That
like
was
the
on
original, like the
Buffy
original
the what
Buffy
Slayer? But yeah, that's obviously one that you should check out too, because it kind of was like
Swanson, the original with Christy Swanson, our Republican, because she's awesome.
Yeah, she's
and
a
then
sweetheart.
Sarah Michelle Gellar too. Yeah,
they're both
Angel and David Boreanaz or whatever his name is.
Yeah, somebody actually, Critter Me Timbers. Actually, she joined us a little late. But she's yelling at us that we have to mention Christopher Lee, but I'm not a Christopher Lee fan.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Critter Me Timbers though. She always posts funny memes. Christopher Lee, how can you not like Christopher Lee?
I'm not a big fan. I know he's like a very talented musician. He was a very talented musician. He was a very talented actor. I respect his work as an actor. He was actually royalty. He was knighted by the Queen, as I recall. Very talented actor. Just never got into any of his movies, except for Lord of the Rings. I mean, like, duh. But yeah, whatever.
Yeah. All right.
And then Fright Night. I mean, I'm not saying that he was a bad actor. He was a bad human being. I'm just saying I never got into his stuff, or him as an actor, or him as a character, or whatever. Fright Night, but yeah, that was a good one. I actually like the remake of Fright Night more than I like the original one. I like Colin Farrell though. I'm a big, for me, like sometimes movies, I just like to distance myself from the, like, cause now that I have V to be like my movie buff guy, like I don't have to be that guy anymore for a lot of people. I can just send them to V. There was a time that I was a movie buff. Now I can just sit back and, like, this huge weight has been lifted off of me. I can I can sit back and just eat my popcorn and just enjoy a movie for what it is, for what it was meant to feed the stupid audience. And that's I'm like more than happy to be the stupid audience now. So that's my thing. So Fright Night, Colin Farrell. I'm way more into the Colin Farrell version.
He's a vampire?
He is a Dracula. But I'm more into the remake of Fright Night than I am the original one, and I'll admit it. I'll sit back
So
with my popcorn.
that's your Dracula movie. You're going with Colin Farrell.
No,
what about the
no, heavens no! I didn't even say that. She said Fright Night, and I was just saying that I prefer the new Fright Night to the old one.
So what's your Dracula movie then?
I already told you. I said for most accurate representation of what I believe a Dracula looks like is 30 Days of Night. Most fun you can have while watching a Dracula movie is From Dusk Till Dawn. And most likely to get you laid afterwards, if you take your wife to it, is Let the Right One In or Let Me In.
You know what Dracula movie I really liked is Daybreakers.
Yeah, that was a pretty good one. I like that one.
That seemed like that could happen. You know what I mean? Like if there was a Dracula disease and you could become a Dracula, then Daybreakers, that seems like the closest thing to what Draculas are.
Well, yeah.
Especially with the weird shit, you know?
Well, it had Ethan Hawke in it. And Ethan Hawke is like the quintessential white guy.
Yeah,
right?
I love that guy. He's great.
Good dude. I like Ethan Hawke. Just looks like a regular old white guy, and you can appreciate that about him. What else do we got? What about TV shows? As far as TV shows about Dracula, about Draculae, I am going to go with The Strain, like you said earlier. Strain is my favorite Dracula show, and I'll tell you why. And this is why I think I recommend The Strain as a Dracula show. Because I think it, aside from the fact that the virus is the way it's done is unique to the Dracula genre, but a lot of the same stuff applies. Like it's like Guillermo del Toro, because it's based off of Guillermo del Toro
from Fear and Loathing.
Yeah, not that guy, a different guy. The guy from
Guillermo del Toro.
He wrote a graphic novel which became a show. And that's how it became a Guillermo del Toro production or whatever.
Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah, and I think he did a good modern take on Draculism. And they do interesting stuff with it. I don't want to spoil anything because a lot of the deep stuff comes later in the series. So I don't want to spoil any of it. But I think that as far as modern takes on Draculism, I think The Strain got it right. And it captured it, like, still to the point where you can be like, that's a Dracula. Yep. And there's no, like, because there's, like, some, especially with I Am Legend, right? Because those are Draculas, according to the description and according to the way it's kind of presented and the way it came out. Those are Draculas, but they seem more like zombies, right? So with The Strain, you're still like, when you watch it, you're like, oh, this is Dracula stuff. This is a Dracula, even though they don't actually label them as Draculas throughout the series as much. And actually throughout the one of the guys that's been dealing with them for like decades, he refers to them as Strigoi because he's Romanian. So, which we kind of talked about earlier. But that's my TV show of choice. What do you think? What about you? What do you think of TV show? True Blood?
No, of course not. I'm not going to go with the gay one. I'm not going to go with the gay show. Dracula's, as far as Draculas go, a TV show, I'm going to default to, like, you know, Herman Munster. Herman Munster. What was the grandpa on that Dracula?
His name was Grandpa.
It's like that was the most Dracula that I've ever gotten out of a TV show. What We Do in the Shadows, the movie was pretty good, but I never watched the TV show.
It's a show that's on now.
I never got into Draculas. I never thought it was like a cool thing. Twilight came out, and I was off put by Dracula entirely because it was like a cult thing, like some weird tween bullshit. You know what I mean? Fuck Draculas, dude.
Yeah, Critter Me Timbers said Grandpa Munster is the name.
Yeah, Grandpa Munster. Yeah.
Yeah, his name was always Grandpa. Like we didn't know him as anything else. I don't know if you noticed this, but our names on our placards for today, we were Team Edward and Team Jacob. So you were the you were all for that Taylor Lautner, right?
He made me the werewolf guy.
Yeah.
You know, I'm for Robert Pattinson though, because of the Batman. I
well,
like
yeah,
him.
yeah, but
He's a
I
good
had to
actor.
claim him because I've been Team Edward since before you even knew about Robert Pattinson, and I can say that
I can't argue with on that. I have to concede on that because you're right.
I was a fan of his since I was aware of him since Twilight because my wife watched Twilight, and so I was aware of him. And she actually read the books.
So what you're saying is you were blowing Robert Pattinson before I even noticed him.
I'm old school blowing Robert Pattinson, yeah. And then I saw him in a movie. I don't remember which one it was, but I was like, maybe I should give this guy a second chance. And then I saw him in, maybe it was Cosmopolis, but then I saw him in Remember Me, and I thought, wow, this dude, he's got some chops.
Yeah,
right?
He does have chops. I agree.
I said he can do a lot more than I gave him credit for based on his performance as Edward, right? Mm-hmm. And then along comes Lighthouse, right? And a few other movies have come and gone since
Lighthouse, dude, that movie was like,
yeah, it won a lot of us naysayers over. And so yeah, I've been team. I actually have a Edward action figure because I collect action figures. I don't know if a lot of people at home know this.
I knew you was gay. I knew you was gay.
I'm gay. Somebody clip that and turn that into a thing. Tom Miller says he's gay. But yeah, I have an Edward action figure over on the wall right now, near my Terminator toys as well. But anyways, I've been Team Edward for a long time, so I wasn't going to let you take that away from me.
What are we doing here, dude? We're like way over. We're drunk. We're like way over.
What are we doing? Are you ready to shill?
I guess we can shill. Did we talk enough about Draculas that we can shill now?
I think so. I think we're ready.
Yeah. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us, and don't forget to take a screenshot of the 700 subscribers so you can win a shower curtain. Also, feel free to shoot us a tweet or a message or whatever. We're cool, Doc. We're homies. So shoot us a message or shoot us a tweet or tag us or whatever you feel like. We always respond. We're cool dudes, right?
Please trust us. We're not weirdos. Yeah. We're not weirdos. We're not... I forgot I changed it to me. I usually mute myself and then like change the screen so that I can vape and jerk off when you're talking.
Yeah. Suck a mechanical dick.
Yeah, I try to do that. I don't. If I were to sit here and try to shill, I would probably screw it up. You know what we didn't talk about? You were talking about Vlad the Impaler earlier. Mm. I have a picture of him. If you would like me to share it.
Yeah, I do. Is it Seth Rogen?
It's this guy right here. This is actually a picture of Vlad the Impaler.
Yeah, it's
he's the most popular Dracula and hungry boy.
No, I didn't know that the spiky mullet variant was so popular back in the 1800s.
It originated in Transylvania, if you can believe that.
Yeah.
Oh man, I am sleepy. But if I know if I sleep right now, I'm gonna puke. I'm gonna wake up hungover. So let me say this. If you haven't already, subscribe. Let me see if I can get through this as professional as possible. Let me see if I can pretend for a moment to be a professional anchorman, and get through this while still drunk at the same time. Before I do this, Critter Me Timbers, she said that she received her products, and she said that they were amazeballs was the term that she used. But here's me being an anchorman trying to sign off, so bear with me. If you haven't already, subscribe on You Had Me Podcast on Twitter as well as Instagram at You Had Me Podcast. You can also find us on Snapchat, which I occasionally check at You Had Me Podcast. You can check on Facebook, You Had Me at Bigfoot, I think is what it's called. I don't remember. I don't check it often enough. And otherwise, if you haven't already, subscribe here on the YouTube channel. If you're listening at home on the podcast, be sure to check us out on Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. and we will do the live stream. You can participate in the chat, and we'll be sure to mention your name if you're commenting in the chat so that you can, I don't know, feel part of the show. Thank you for everyone who tuned in today and for contributing. Also, Crow Hunter, welcome to the chat, now that I see your name here in the chat, after having just said that I would make sure that I say your name in the chat. For everybody who tuned in tonight, I appreciate you guys coming and tuning in, joining us, and hanging with us this whole time while V and I tried not to puke after a drinking game that involved not saying the title of what we were talking about throughout the entire episode. And now that both of us are sufficiently drunk enough, we will see you all next week.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.